April 13th, 2026. This is our way of handling the day's Democracy Now! Stories. We do not just repeat headlines, we use them as raw material, strip each story down to what is solid, note where a claim needs caution, and pull out the civic lesson hiding underneath. Story 1. Trump's blockade of Iranian ports is the clearest story of the day. The talks in Islamabad collapsed, the blockade began this morning, and oil moved higher because the market still believes Hormuz is a live choke point. The deeper takeaway is that modern power often works through bottlenecks, not conquest. You do not need to occupy a country to make millions of people pay more for fuel, food, freight, and daily life. Story 2. Lebanon shows how wars survive through loopholes. Israel's strike that killed an infant during her father's funeral came after many people in Lebanon thought the regional ceasefire would cover them too. Washington says it does not. The deeper lesson is that civilians often live inside the fine print of diplomacy. A ceasefire that is ambiguous on the map is not a ceasefire in lived reality. Story 3. The Gaza flotilla and the mass arrests in London belong together. A new aid flotilla has sailed toward Gaza, while hundreds of people were arrested in London for supporting Palestine action, even though the ban remains under legal challenge. The deeper takeaway is that when a state's moral case weakens, it often shifts from arguing against dissent to criminalizing the language of solidarity itself. Story 4. According to the report cited in the broadcast, immigration judges who dismissed high-profile deportation cases involving pro-Palestinian students were fired. Even before that report, the structure was already clear. Immigration judges are not part of an independent judiciary, but employees inside the Justice Department. The deeper truth is that a court inside the executive branch can become a policy tool when political pressure rises. Story 5. Viktor Orban's defeat in Hungary matters well beyond Hungary. After 16 years in power, with media, institutions, and the constitution bent around one ruling bloc, he still lost badly. The takeaway is simple and important. Captured systems can look permanent right up until they break. Public exhaustion, corruption, and accumulated humiliation can sit quietly for years, and then move all at once. Story 6. The reported Nigerian bombing of a village market is one of the hardest stories in the file, because the state says the target was legitimate, while residents and rights groups say civilians, including children, were killed in large numbers. The deeper lesson is that in counter-terror wars, civilians are often erased first in language, before they are forgotten in accountability. A market becomes a target by description, before it becomes one in memory. Trump's attack on Pope Leo and the AI image of himself as a Christ-like figure looks like spectacle on the surface. It is more than that. When political power starts borrowing sacred imagery while attacking moral authority, it usually means ordinary legitimacy is thinning. The deeper truth is that force likes to dress itself in holiness when persuasion is no longer enough. Story 8. The warehouse fire east of Los Angeles, with prosecutors alleging the suspect said, "All you had to do was pay us enough to live," is easy to dismiss as one damaged man acting out. That misses the layer underneath. When wage desperation, corporate resentment, and public nihilism fuse together, labor grievance stops looking organized and starts looking explosive. A society should pay close attention when economic pain begins to express itself as spectacle and sabotage instead of bargaining. Story 9. The man who damaged a U.S. military aircraft at Shannon Airport in Ireland matters for a similar reason. It was not a battlefield act. It was a logistics act. The deeper point is that public resistance increasingly targets the infrastructure that makes war possible, rather than the war zone itself. In an interconnected system, runways, ports, software, insurers, and suppliers can matter more than speeches. Story 10. Zohan Mamdani's first 100 days in New York are a useful reminder that ideology becomes real only when it turns into ordinary material change. Daycare seats, potholes, bus service, and food prices sound smaller than war and geopolitics. They are not smaller in lived life. The deeper lesson is that public trust comes back when politics proves it can touch the street, not just the slogan. The through line today is simple. Systems under stress do not just become violent. They become selective. Selective about who gets protection, who gets process, who gets heard, and who gets priced into the cost of everything. That is the deeper story under today's headlines.